Okay, welcome to the Milford Board of Selectmen meeting for June 13th, 2016. The first item on the agenda is I have the distinction and honor of being able to recognize Josephine Capizzello. And if you want to sit in the front seat, that would be great. So the recognition from the members of the Board of Selectmen is as followed. Be it known that the Board of Selectmen hereby offer their congratulations to Josephine L. Capizzello in recognition of your 100th birthday celebration. Born in Milford, Mass. On June 25th, 1916. On behalf of the people of Milford, the Selectmen extend their very best wishes and express the hope of future good fortunes and continued success in all endeavors. And that's signed by myself, William Buckley, Chairman, Brian Murray, Esquire, William Kincaid, Jr., all members of the board. Certainly, that's a unique distinction. We want to offer Josephine the best of good health and long life. And so with this, we'd like to present this to your family. And thank you very much. Thank you for letting me know, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Give her my regards.
Yes.
Yes, I
You say,
will.
tell her we miss her seeing in the garden.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've got a picture, right?
I
Yeah,
do.
yeah, we've got to see.
Oh, yeah,
Josephine,
let's see that. Yeah,
Nice
please.
picture.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say that.
Oh,
but-
look at her. She looks great,
She had-
doesn't
That-
she?
That was Mother's Day. so
Oh, that's a beautiful shot.
pretty recent.
She looks great.
Yeah, she does.
Still sharp and alert. That's great.
Yeah, no, I already had a chair.
Oh, you did?
She looks great. She looks the same.
Thank you for bringing that. That's a nice touch. You're very, very welcome. She's earned that for sure.
Good luck with everything.
Next item we have on the agenda is the signing of the warrant.
I'll move.
Seconded?
That's unanimous. Approval of the May 18th meeting minutes. I'll do it separately.
Motion.
Seconded?
That's also unanimous. Now, for approval of the May 23rd meeting, that's an executive session where not all, I'm sorry, we did the executive session. I just want to remind the members that item 2 of the executive session of May 18th has not had, that issue is not resolved, and so we'll withhold those minutes from being released until that issue is resolved.
None of the issues are resolved, yeah.
Yeah.
They're- none of them can be-
Oh, that's
can be
true. So
released, yeah.
all of the items, so
Yeah.
we wouldn't release the executive session minutes. Next, we have the regular session of May 23rd. Any
Motion.
comments?
Seconded.
I'll also approve that unanimous. Next item on the agenda is the 3 J's of Milford transfer of license. It shows alteration of premises. Right, thank you. Okay, I've unintentionally skipped invitation to speak, so I'm going to get back to that in a minute. I'll do that next. It's not the intention to hold up town residents for invitation to speak while we go through the entire agenda. But we will hear from the 3 J's of Milford through their attorney. I'll let you begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a public hearing, and we're here tonight for the purpose of 2 applications which are pending. The first application is an application for the transfer of the all-alcoholic beverage pouring license that's utilized in connection with the operation of the Depot Street Tavern at 45 Depot Street, and correlatively, the common Vittler license that goes with it. The second purpose that we're here tonight for is to talk about the proposed modification of the licensed premises to authorize the use of the exterior deck, which is at the premises. Briefly, we've been here fairly recently. You know the history that's associated with the restaurant. It's been a continuous operation for more than 75 years for the last 2.5 years. Adam Hicks has been managing it, and over the last year has actually been renting the premises and was in fact the licensed manager of the premises. Adam is prepared to purchase the property from the Crivello family and continue his operations there. He's seeking the permission of this board for the transfers, and he's seeking the permission of this board to authorize the exterior deck to be included in the service area, which would ultimately give him space for 20 more patrons. We have gone to the planning board and the zoning board in the last couple of weeks. We were very warmly received there. I think a testimony to the history of the restaurant and the manner in which Adam continues to run it. We're here tonight to offer any answers to any questions you have, but that would be a brief overview of our purposes here this evening, and again, I'll stop my remarks at that point.
Okay. And before we go to the board members, I just did want to read from the Milford Board of Selectmen notice. It's to the licensee, a meeting scheduled for Monday, June 13th, which is tonight, at 7 PM at Room 3. They're expected to be present, discuss the application with the members of the board if you're unable to meet. And I did want to go through a little bit of the application, just for clarity. There's no alteration specifically, it's an existing deck, right?
The deck had been in existence for many years. When Adam took over the operation of the facility, he reinforced the deck because it really wasn't suitable for the load that would be required to have patrons either waiting there or actually dining there. So yes, the deck is the same dimensions as it has historically always been. It's just been reinforced to accommodate the anticipated additional load.
Yeah, I would say that anticipated load is justified based on the reviews you get and the great word out there on the street. So you've been doing a great job. I did want to say that. So let me go through, at least for the benefit of everyone here. Building commissioners looked at it. It's an allowable use. Occupational load, 40 indoor, 20 outdoor on the deck. Town planner, special permit required by ZBA. Site plan required, and you've already saw it and been there.
Yes.
Tax collector, no outstanding taxes. Town treasurer, no outstanding liens. Fire department has no objection, and police department has no objections. So, why don't I go to the board members to see if they have any questions or comments? Brian?
Anything that you can do to expand the service in your restaurant, I'm all in favor for. It's
Thank you.
one of the great restaurants in Milford. The food's excellent. Every time I go, just have a great time. Just tough to get in there. you know,
It'll be
so
easier
That's
now.
what we're hoping for.
Anything you can do to expand the service area, more power to you. It's just a great operation, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Will?
Same here. Good luck, and this is a no-brainer.
All right, so why don't we handle the application for transfer?
The transfer would run from the 3 J's of Milford Corporation to Adam has created an LLC, Valley Restaurant Group, LLC. So the transfers of the common vittler license and the all-alcoholic beverage pouring licenses would run between those two entities.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to transfer the all-alcoholic and common vic from 3 J's of Milford Corp. to Valley Restaurant Group LLC.
Seconded.
and I'm happy to make that unanimous.
And then the second request is the permission to utilize the deck in conjunction with the service area and thereby increase the capacity of the restaurant for that 20 that the building inspector has certified. And just for the record, we received the special permit last Thursday evening at the zoning board.
Very good. So is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the alteration of premises as stated.
Seconded.
I'll also make that unanimous.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good luck.
Have a
Thank
very
you
good
much.
evening.
Good night.
You're very welcome. You've earned it.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, now I'm going to go backwards in the agenda. I apologize. Is there an invitation to speak for anybody who's not currently on the agenda? Anybody would like to approach the board? Okay. With that said, we'll move on to the next item. That's Travis Corporation doing business as the car store seeking a Class II license. Welcome, John.
I knew he was
Lost him for a
behind me.
moment.
I lost him from there to here.
All right, John, why don't I let you go ahead?
Sure. For the record, John Fernandez with an office at 12 Main Street in Milford. I'm here with Mark Epstein of Sharon. We're here for an application for a Class II used car license. It would be operated at the Coles Plaza, rather than using the formal address, Medway Road. If you were to come in on the far western side and go down behind the Milford Federal and went about halfway down the long building, in the back you would see that there's a garage door, actually. And I think it might have been used by Curry Auto, I'm not sure, but it probably goes back to those days. And it does not go all the way through the building. That unit does not go all the way through to the front, so there's no storefront on the plaza side. So it's about 1,000 square feet in the back. And Mr. Epstein has some 30-plus years in the automobile sales business and is engaged, or wants to engage, in internet sales, as he has done before. He had a license in Newton. He's in Sharon now as his home address, is going to be leasing that 1,000 square feet of space primarily for internet sales. There'll be no outdoor display of automobiles, no signage on the marquee. There may be a small sign at the back to identify where you actually go to pick up a car. And it was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals for 4 cars because, of course, used car has to be by special permit. So they did determine it was a proper location and a proper person at the time that they did their review of this. The only thing I will mention to you is there is an amendment in front of you that was submitted, cleared with Town Council Moody and with the most knowledgeable person in the room, Gene, as to used car licenses, that we could file this by amendment. The original corporation, Travers, was actually in both Mr. Epstein and his wife's name, and that was not the intent here, so we formed the corporation MEE Enterprises, Inc. We ask that that amendment be accepted, and that if you're inclined to do so, that the license issue in the name of MEE Enterprises, Inc. There is no workers' comp insurance required, as he will be the sole employee of the business and will be waiving that. And the bond is purchased and approved and will be available tomorrow to be brought to the administrator's office.
Okay, and could you just elaborate a little bit on the difference? I noticed that while there's sales, there's no service, but there is assembly, and I wonder if you could make that
That's
distinction.
just the nature of the app. There is no assembly planned here at all. It will simply be sales, no service. That's the title under the statute of
I got
the
it.
application. It is strictly sales, no service, no repair, no cleaning or any of those kinds of things on site.
Okay.
All preparation of cars takes place off-site.
And as is customary, I'll read from the various department head review form that we have. Building Commissioner, IB zone allowable use. Building is not accessible. ZBA special permit attached. 4 vehicles inside, no outdoor storage of vehicles. Now you made me have trouble with saying that.
It was just
No vehicle
tongue
service,
twister, I guess.
no signage. Vehicle planning to review planning board to review site plan at their 6/7 meeting, which has already happened. Tax collector cites no outstanding taxes. Treasurer, town treasurer, no outstanding tax liens. Fire chief has no concerns or issues, and that is the same for the police chief. Okay, so is there any questions or comments by the board?
Seems pretty straightforward. You have the 4 parking spaces outside, but that's allocated to either you or folks that want to come there, and any vehicles you have are going to be inside?
Correct.
Yeah.
The outdoor parking is the required parking for the use for either an employee or a customer visit. And again, it's not going to be, hey, we've got cars for display. It's all done internet, and it's really there for pickup more than
Okay.
anything else.
Yeah, no, it looks like a great business opportunity, taking advantage of a nice location.
Will?
No, I don't have any questions. Good luck.
Being a public hearing, is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak? Not hearing anyone. Could I get a motion, please?
I will move to approve the Class 2 license application, and it is
MEE.
MEE Enterprises, Inc., DBA The Car Store.
Seconded.
I'll also vote in favor. That's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Next item on the agenda is Finance Director, State Aid Anticipation Note for Godfrey Brook.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. How you doing, Zach?
Good, how you doing? So I am here tonight to get authorization to do a short-term borrowing. It's that time of year. One of the things I'm looking at this time of year is to make sure that any interfund borrowing that had occurred during the year is now taken care of. What that basically means is, in this particular example, is Godfrey Brook. So it's a capital project that we have. Why don't I do it this way? I'll give you a little history of where we're at. So last October, no, the previous May, not this past one, is when we had authorized $1 million from raise and appropriate, $500,000 from free cash, and authorization to bond of $1.1 million. We had no intentions at the time of actually bonding this project, and I still have no intentions of actually bonding this project. But instead, we knew at the time we were eligible for reimbursement of upwards of $800,000 from FEMA. That still stands. However, in order to actually secure the bids at the time, we had to do the authorization to bond. It was more or less a tactic to award the bid. Going through the process, we're now here today. I have a deficit of $450,000 in my fund, which basically is the interfund borrowing I was discussing, which is obviously you have the ability to do so, but the consequences of not squaring up or covering your interfund borrowing would be a direct reduction in free cash, which I'm trying to avoid, which is why I'm here today. The FEMA process has been that it's a reimbursable, so we actually pay the contractors and the engineers, and then we submit the bills to FEMA. FEMA works through MEMA, so our contact is actually MEMA, who is giving us the funds, reviews the project, makes sure that it fits within the scope, and then they reimburse us the money. Now, it was my hope that we actually would have received this money by this time, but we had not. There's a delay in the process. And basically a change order had came in that changed the scope, and now it's under review. And it made me nervous that we would not receive it by 6:30, hence being here today to cover it so that we do not have a reduction in free cash. So what I asked for was $500,000, because there's also bills coming down that may be realized before the end of the year. So $500,000 to cover the $450,000 that we currently have, and potentially $50,000 that may be coming. So again, this is short term. We would be running a note from 6/15 to 9/15, $500,000 at 0.85% interest, or just under $1,000. I believe it's $963. That's what I'm here for today.
Okay, any questions by the members of the board?
Just a couple, and we talked a little bit, and I saw it in here, there are actually two FEMA grants, right?
Correct.
One is about $405,000, I think, for the Congress Terrace.
Correct.
And then the Main Street, I think, is $390 plus.
392, yep,
Yeah.
correct.
So it's a total of about $800,000 that you're getting
Correct.
from FEMA. And I mean, I don't know, as much about the Main Street portion, but I know there are a number of change orders with Congress Terrace involving the water service. And then also I remember when the town engineer told us that they had to either lower or raise, I can't remember, either lower or raise the culvert underneath Congress Terrace because it was, the water was going through too rapidly, creating a lot of noise and other interference. Are there other change orders that you're aware of that?
There was 3 of them thus far, and I believe that there are 2 more that are in the process right now. Talking with Scott, who was taking over in the project. It has been involved with
Yep.
the whole time. So I believe there are 2 outstanding right now. At this point, we'll be chipping into our contingency. We're still way under actual appropriation, which again was 2.6. Even if you do the math, they authorized 1.1, and there's 800 potential from FEMA, so that still leaves a potential of 300,000 that we would have to square up with. So that is something that I purposely delayed on because I don't know what that amount is going to be. At the time, before these last 2, word of these last 2 change orders, it seemed like we may not even have to appropriate. It seemed like the 800,000 would cover the entire project, and that I would be going to town meeting to rescind the remaining 300. I'm not sure what figure had changed, but I would expect that there may be a square up in October at this point, outside of the 800.
Okay.
And again, I have no intentions of actually bonding anything at this point. Of 300,000, would probably take it from free cash or look to other areas.
Okay, yeah, I'm all set, thank you.
By square up, Zach, what do you mean?
Meaning that there's a lack of, so we have authorization to bond, but I don't want to actually bond it. So again, that was 1.1 million, and FEMA is going to be 800. So there's the potential upfront of $300,000 that we would have to appropriate to eliminate any bonding. But again, at the time, why we didn't put anything on the town meeting, it seemed that we would not tap into the contingency like was originally planned, and that the project would come in almost perfectly, 300,000 less than the full appropriation. So I didn't want to make a guess at town meeting when I knew that FEMA would come in, and that October would seem to be the more appropriate time to give an exact dollar amount, so we don't over appropriate or under appropriate.
And some change orders are driving us over the $800,000 FEMA grant?
Potentially, yes. I do think that, I don't have the full amount at this time, it's still in review, but I do believe that it will drive over the 800.
And the three are driving the need to borrow short-term, and specifically, or is it the five? I guess this is the first time I'm hearing five, that's why,
The 500,000 is just
the five change orders, I'm sorry. You said there were two more in the
Oh,
pipeline?
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, potentially change orders may not have even changed this as it is, because it's put a halt on the project, or put a halt on reimbursement. But that shouldn't be correlated directly to the need to potentially appropriate more money,
Okay,
you know,
all right.
which would just simply be rescinding the authorization so that we don't have to actually bond 300,000,
Okay.
if that's clear.
I get it, but
Yeah.
go ahead, Will.
All right, thank you. I mean, obviously, from the $500,000 short-term borrowing, like you said, with a great rate, and for $966, it's obviously a no-brainer. But with the reimbursement, would you say just on hold? Is that because, I mean, you mentioned a review process. Have we lost credibility with either of these agencies, or is this just part of their process, or?
It's part of the process. The way I'm understanding it is that a change order had occurred and it wasn't submitted to MEMA, who is working with FEMA, so it's kind of a lot of hands in the cookie jar here. And,
The reason I ask that is because we've all worked on enough projects when there's change orders. I've never heard of that affecting reimbursement. That's the only
Yeah.
reason I asked. And
yeah, so then we're, at the same time, we're submitting payment as well. So they received the payment and it didn't match up to a change order, so they went back to to review the full project because the scope had changed. And there's no indication at all we're not receiving money.
Okay.
It's just a matter of, it's just holding up, and 6:30 is quickly approaching, and I do not believe by any stretch that we will receive that money before the end of the year.
no, and that's why this is a good idea.
Correct.
It's just, I was curious about that because it just came to it when you said about the change orders. I just never heard of,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah, I know from personal experience, so doesn't Rick, the FEMA is extremely difficult, and in this particular case, it's MEMA and FEMA, so we're getting the double whammy on this one. So they want to make sure their Ts are crossed and their Is are dotted, and it's just becoming a timing issue for the town.
And well, and I know that you're not the one that usually deals with them. I imagine Scott's taken over, but do you think it'll be over the summer, or have they let you know that it's usually a 3-month, it's an audit of change orders and things of
Yeah, I
that nature?
couldn't give an accurate number, but I would expect within.
Prior to the fall?
Oh, yeah, I would say so. Over the summer, I would think so, yeah.
I figured you chose September,
Yeah.
strategically, so.
Well, there's no cash flow issue. That's the shortest we can borrow. If it was a perfect world, I'd borrow it until 7/1, because all I'm trying to do is present that I
Right,
have
to
the
the
money on my
next-
balance sheet as of 6/30, but that's the shortest term that we could actually borrow.
Okay.
Zach, you said something that was new information to me since the time we talked. You said that the change order had not been submitted to MEMA as would have been expected?
Say it again. I'm
It was
sorry.
not, the change order was not submitted to MEMA?
As I understand it, but I could be wrong, but that's how I understand is that a change order had not been submitted and a payment that would have recognized the change order was, so two
So
things
it got
didn't.
there ahead of,
Yes,
The
two,
change order.
two things didn't match up, and then it was, whoa, let's take a look at this, and then it just caused a back to the drawing board review.
okay. So, from the other member's perspective, change orders are sometimes a natural thing when sometimes you run into things you didn't anticipate. The total interest is less than $1,000 on this, so the cost of borrowing is relatively cheap, but, so it's those change orders, though, what I'd like to do, Rick and Zach, make sure that, folks understand the communication requirements when change orders go in. There's a couple of pieces here. Those change orders ought to hit the Director of Finance's desk before they go in, because obviously there may be impact to borrowing or impact to our payment schedules. The other thing I'd like to better understand, especially where we pay an outside contractor, an engineering firm, to help us with this process, and certainly they help us with our submission process to FEMA and MEMA. I'd like to understand whether that in fact happened, that we submitted to FEMA, not MEMA, as would be customary process. If payments were received that indicated change orders were happening, but no change order request prior to those payments being made. What I'd like to understand is the extent to which our outside contractors are helping us, preventing us from having to do this type of borrowing. And certainly, that would be my expectation. So as we
Yeah.
manage contractors, that the people understand who's managing the contractors, responsible for the contractor's work, and those submissions being timely, and those submissions going directly to the people who should be getting them. Okay, yeah, I'd like to understand a little bit more about that. I thought I did until tonight, as I had asked earlier, but there was new information tonight. Okay. That said, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Seconded.
All right, so, motion to approve short-term borrowing in the amount of $500,000. And that's unanimous.
Great.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
bringing that forward. Yeah, I'm not questioning your process. Actually, I want you to be communicated to in a better way, maybe, and certainly more timely when change orders are coming, because at the end of the day, you end up cleaning it up, right? So,
Yeah.
So anything that's open, anything that's under review or greater scrutiny from
Yeah.
a federal agency is going to delay our cash flow. Okay.
Communication's always a good thing, so.
All right. Thank you,
All
Zach.
right, thank you so much.
Have a good night, Zach.
Next, we have Town Administrator's Report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few items tonight. One, I just want to inform the board that we've scheduled treatments at Louisa Lake, basically just to control water lilies. There'll be 2 treatments, July 22nd and August 26th, assuming the weather cooperates. An update on the Milford Youth Center. I'm pleased to report that the Youth Center received a Chinar 6 mini grant in the amount of $3,233.16. This will be used to fund a health coordinator position. Director Jen Ward informed me the position will work in the after-school program to create a nutrition program, along with increasing physical fitness programming. The program is designed specifically for 4th and 5th grade students and is to create, hopefully, a healthier community and help prevent chronic disease. Update on Milford Pond. I'm communicating with Adam Burnett, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. He inspected the pond on May 31st. He informs us that the disposal area is showing good revegetation with cattails. A good density of seedlings are growing both on the exposed surfaces and the shallow terrain. He assessed the conditions for potential reestablishment of Atlantic white cedar, and they'll be doing that on the islands later this summer, and the project is basically nearing completion. If people did not know, the Farmers Market opened on Saturday, June 11th, at its new location at the Stacy Middle School. I spoke with Jen, and I'm informed that the location worked very well. Parking and traffic is much improved from the prior location. They were all very pleased with their opening, other than, I guess, it rained a great deal, but other than that, they're looking forward to going forward, and just remind people that it'll be there on Saturdays going forward throughout the summer and early fall. And then just one final item, I just want to remind everyone that there will be a Selectmen meeting next Monday, a week from tonight, June 20th at 7 PM. So that should be on the calendar. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Rick. Yeah, congratulations to the Youth Center for their submission for the Chenal grant, and they're receiving that over $3,000 for nutrition and fitness. Great things are happening there, and we know great things are happening in the future, so we look forward to seeing how the programs expand there. I know the farmer's market has got to start off small, but I think you're right, and I think they're right in their assessment. It's at the right place now.
Yes.
And it starts off small at this time of the year because there's frankly not a lot of vegetables, right? So, Louisa Lake treatment, is there any general public notification? You know, I meant to ask that in past years. This has been going on a long time, so
Been
this is
going
not
on.
new.
Right, yeah. Normally, they contact Mike Brashani of the Parks Department. He then contacts me. I can try to determine if there is public
I mean, is
notification.
there signage, or is there a fishing alert, or anything that might?
I can check on
I'm
that.
just wondering what the public would do with that information if we say we're gonna treat. I've never asked a question, and probably should have in some of my past years. I'll go to the members of the board. Any questions or comments for Rick?
No, I don't have any.
No, I'm all set.
Okay. Next, under old business, we have Transportation Advisory Committee Charter. You know, this is a draft. I kind of threw it together kind of quick, but to get everybody's thought process going, see what they think that charter ought to include, and now I'd just like to hear from the members. Brian, I know you submitted a
I think I
document.
put something together just to
Yeah.
try to firm it up a little bit, so,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, and I neglected to take what I sent, but
Oh, here.
it was just a generalized statement of purpose, so, just to try to firm it up a little bit in terms of, I think what you're thinking about. I thought it was important to call it ad hoc. I don't know that you want to establish the committee as a permanent standing committee when
I do not.
we don't know if transportation is gonna be a
Right.
permanent. I just arbitrarily picked the number of 7 residents. There's no magic to that number. I just thought it was a number that made sense in terms of trying to be meaningful but not unwieldy. Also gave it discretion to meet as often. Tried to outline some basic purposes, making it clear that it's advisory in nature, because the full accountability, I think, rests with this board. And in fact, it's the chair of this board who's the actual member with the MWRTA. So I would not want to undercut that authority or that accountability in any way. But at the same time, we would look, I think, to this committee to help us, advise us on whatever tasks we thought pertinent, or they might discover in terms of operation, ridership, improving it, public awareness, that kind of stuff.
Well, let me ask a question, because I think you summarized a lot that I had in mind on the draft, and I just had a couple of questions. One, was it your intention to restrict this to residents? And the reason why I asked that, let me give a hypothetical. There may be somebody from the hospital who would want to participate on an ad hoc committee, but not necessarily be a resident of the community, but certainly be a valued stakeholder. Would it be your intent to restrict?
I thought it's important for residents to be on it. I mean, it is a taxpayer item. It is something that went through the town meeting. There's no magic to it, but I mean, personally, I thought it was important to have residents, actual, you know, the word now is stakeholders, right? So, you know, I thought residents in the town of Milford would in fact be stakeholders.
Yeah, certainly the taxpayer is the ultimate stakeholder,
Yeah.
right? But I just didn't know if your intention was to specifically exclude, you know, and I use the example as a hospital, if the members of the board would like to see members from, say the hospital, should we seek out somebody from the hospital as an example, as the largest employer and, you know, involved in the Chenal grant through their expansion? I didn't know if you wanted to include that.
I
addition
think,
to.
yeah, I think that responsibility probably rests with this board. You know, if we think that we need input from other sources, then I think the burden should fall upon us. This committee here that I think is gonna be looking intimately at the public transportation, I just thought it should be people who live here.
Okay,
And I agree with that, Mr. Chairman.
okay. So having an understanding of where the board's going, I think you're also right in saying that, ultimately, the decisions rest with this board. It's under the authority of this board that a committee like this would be formed. This board ultimately is gonna make all the decisions. As you know, having participated in a couple meetings with MWRTA, that through the chairman, any issues or concerns would be, I would essentially, in this case, act as a liaison for this board, but this board makes the final decision on what we go forward with, how we go forward, and we just seek as much input as possible through an advisory transportation committee. So Rick, along those lines, and before we adopt Transportation Advisory Committee charter, do you have an up-to-date list of, I don't necessarily need the names, but the quantity of number of residents who are interested in participating?
We have more than 7 who are interested.
Okay. All right.
At least I have a list of names, there's more
All
than
right.
7. I would need to follow up with some of them, but
Okay.
I could know 4 or 5 right off the top of my head that
Okay.
definitively interested. I can get those for the board at the next meeting. If the board wants to put together some kind of process to determine if they want a talent bank application, for example, to get some background on the individuals, we could do that.
Yeah, I think that would help. That wouldn't
You'd
hurt.
have
right?
something in front of you, especially
Yeah.
if we have more than,
And you know a little bit about their background, their interest level, why they're interested. Okay. So is there a motion for this charter?
I'll make a motion to accept it as a guideline
Okay.
going forward.
All right.
I'll second it. I agree with it in its entirety as written.
Okay, good. Outstanding. Thank you both. Next, Rick has some information on community compact. Maybe you can walk us through, Rick, what you've gleaned.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As you know, the order was signed by the governor in January of last year. Basically, it's designed to allow the state and cities and towns to work together to promote best practices. There's a listing there of 6 best practice areas that are provided by the state. 2 of them I felt, and I know the board felt, were particularly relevant to where we are here today. One would be obviously information technology, and the second one is very convenient transportation. You can choose more than one, so it would make sense, as I think I said on page 2 of the memo, I would recommend information technology, and then the second would be transportation. I've spoken with, obviously, Zach and Andy to help me put together the application if and when the board decides that we would be ready to do that. But typically, it would deal with policies, procedures, controls, security strategy, backup, disaster recovery, and anything else. Another thing we thought about would be citizen engagement. Maybe it's time to look at updating the website. Maybe it's some grant opportunities. One of the advantages to being part of the Community Compact is the potential for grant opportunities for the specific best practice. So that was one area there we would be looking to move towards. And then obviously the transportation. Probably be a perfect thing for the Transportation Advisory Committee. Could provide guidance for them as we try to implement, operate, monitor, and set this up. So those would be the 2 areas. I did speak with Sean Cronin. He's the Senior Deputy Commissioner of Local Services. He's informing that on July 1st of this year, they're going to reopen the Community Compact Program, add additional best practices. He's also expecting to somewhat streamline the program. So it's been in existence about a year, so now they're working to improve it. As I said, you can select more than one. Those would be the 2 that I would recommend. And again, this from indications from this board that obviously they make the most sense. I've also included some literature there for you just on a further breakdown of the 6 best practice areas and what is available to us. So the process itself, if you look at one of the last pages, a very simple process. You actually do it right online.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of documentation.
Yeah, it's not
What
heavy
happens,
lifting.
once you do file the best practice areas, they will assign someone to work with us to help us obviously do the best we can in that particular area. So we will work with that person
Okay.
from the state to help us. And you have 2 years two-year cycle to complete the best practice.
You know, I noticed from the transportation standpoint that it wasn't a perfect fit for what the governor, and through the governor's office and through Karen Polito, Lieutenant Governor, has established in this document.
Not quite. We may have to work to make sure we can,
And we shouldn't force fit it. The reason why I brought it up in transportation is I had specifically looked at the grants that were approved, or not the grants that were approved, but the community compacts that had already been established. And there was a very specific community compact with a community that was looking to implement public transportation and looking for the best ways to go about doing that. So it has really, I think this is a general guideline,
right.
but I think what we should focus on is specifically the public transportation piece that we talked about tonight with the advisory committee, and not necessarily get into school transportation routes or any of those things that are used as examples for this guideline.
Yes, absolutely. I spoke with Mr. Cronin and kind of told him specifically what we were looking to do, which was that unique piece.
And they've already signed one.
Yes, so I don't think, again, they will work with us to
Okay,
streamline
good,
that.
good.
I'm not
I
all
just
that
didn't want the members for their first
Right.
read on community compacts
Right.
to see that and say, oh, well, what are we getting into? We're talking about taking what we're doing as public transportation from the Board of Selectmen standpoint, what we just got approved at town meeting, and fitting that into community compact. And if there's any hesitation from the state that wanted to go forward with public transportation as it related to school transportation and expansion, then we would back off on that. But I don't see any reason why they would, because they've already done that with another community. I'll go to the members of the board. Any comments or questions?
Yes, I mean, I thought that this was a good idea, at least in the technology area, you know, when we looked at it last summer. And I think it even makes more sense now to add the transportation component with it. So I really don't see a downside on it. Anything that we can achieve through it, I see as a bonus and an advantage to the community. So I would be in support of both of these compacts.
Will?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think these are two good recommendations, Rick, and obviously very appropriate. In regards who we're assigned to, Sean Cronin is very knowledgeable and been around, and he's literally serving as the governor and lieutenant governor's right hand, and they speak very highly of him. So I think he will be a good resource for us specifically and to you. Yeah, I would like to, I mean, as soon as we can get in on this, I think after the 1st of July would be great. I know over 200 other towns have already signed, but this is good timing for us because these are two things that we can certainly benefit from, so.
Yeah.
No, fully supportive, nice work.
And if both of you remember, these are the two topics that I had picked when I came in as a chairman, that we wanted to spend some time with, look to create community compacts. Rick was kind enough to follow up. I made one call to the state to make sure what my headset was and make sure I was aligned with what they were trying to do. I think we're well aligned. And the other thing that's not mentioned, or Rick, I think, alluded to it, was depending on the outcome, there may be grants available. And the communities that get the grants are the ones that are participating in these community compacts and working best practices with other
That's
communities.
correct. Grants outside of this, we would become more eligible, we get points.
Higher priority.
Just being part of the compact, correct.
Outstanding, and we know we can use that. Transportation goes further. I know that outside third-party audits of our IT infrastructure and cybersecurity, a different set of eyes are needed. It's always a good thing to have somebody else looking at that. Maybe there are grants for hardware that we may need and find we need for additional security measures. So hopefully we can take advantage of some of that. So I don't know that there's a vote. I hear a consensus that we want to go forward with these two initiatives.
Well, let's make a motion then to initiate the community compact program in the information technology and transportation areas.
Okay,
Second.
I would make that unanimous. Okay. Thank you, and thank you, Rick, for your work. I'm guessing Zach's gonna head up Zach, or the IT manager, Andy?
Yes, Andy's gonna help
Okay.
with the actual preparation of that small part of the application.
And you're gonna do
It's
the
a
app
little
for-
too technical for me.
For transportation, and then
Yes.
we'll all follow up with them on a meeting? Okay.
Correct, yes. Yeah.
Thank
They
you.
actually come out to sign, and there's a ceremony to
Good,
sign.
good.
And we'll schedule that.
Looking forward to the ceremony. Bless you, back there. Dan? Next item on the agenda is performance evaluations.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna break it down into two parts, if I might. The first one, it would be the evaluation process for department heads, so that I would, along with the board, obviously helping out, to do a performance evaluation for each department head that serves under the Board of Selectmen. I'm not gonna go through the memo I prepared, but just briefly, you can see there is what we call good performance management. We want to work with them to establish goals, plan to execute those goals, and enough documentation, both written and discussion. We want to look for areas of strength, areas of weakness, needs to improve, and how we can just work together and provide feedback to one another. The evaluation would focus on, could be a specific project, it could be the improvement of a process, could be professional development, a number of different areas. It obviously would be different for each department head in each discipline. I would look to meet with each of them, department heads, to start the process, get their feedback, get their input, and then meet with them periodically throughout the year, and then put together an evaluation, again, that they would look to, and that we could work together with to improve both their performance and mine. I did put a sample form there with just a very brief number of things: productivity, if it pertains to them, budget, planning, communication, and other skills, with a grade sheet, and also the opportunity to provide written comments should I need to. So that would be that part of the process. The second one would be a policy and procedure for the evaluation of the town administrator position. It's a little more detailed than the department head process. It's broken down into two areas, basically: objectives and then elements of management. Again, a similar type rating system. This will require both myself and members of the board to meet, to establish some goals and objectives. Obviously, I would welcome any input from the board on the process that is set up here, as well as the individual forms to be used for the evaluation. Again, it is pretty detailed. I think it's specific. I think, I did look at a number of these. While they may differ in how they're set up, most of them, if not all of them, have the same categories that they're looking at when they're reviewing whatever the position might be. So again, I would welcome the input from the board. Once we narrow down, or nail down rather, the process that the board is comfortable with, that I'm comfortable with, I think then we can meet to start to establish some goals and objectives, make sure that the form is acceptable, and then we could proceed accordingly. And this should be done, they recommend once a year, which I think would make sense. Obviously can be done intermittently if need be on a specific task, for example. If it was shorter than a year, certainly we could do that too. So, again, try to put something together. This board actually, many years ago, kind of had a form. I don't know how often it was used or not used, and then I did, be honest with you, work off of that. And again, I did look at a number of other towns also, and they're very similar in the categories they use. Some a little more detailed, to be honest, and some not quite as. So this would be the process that we could put in place for that also.
Okay, comments?
Well, it does look strikingly similar to what I grabbed
It
from my
is.
file from 2002 that
It is.
Mr. Solazzi had sent to us, and, you know, I think at that time, you know, the attempt was made to do it, and I think a couple of things arose. I think the board at that time found it, you know, a little too complicated, a little too involved for the position. I think, well, and all three of us come from the school committee, so the temptation is there to try to compare this to an evaluation of a superintendent of schools, but, you know, the distinction between the superintendent and the town administrator, I think needs to be realized. The school committee really looks, I think, to the superintendent to be the educational leader, to really come forth with some policy initiatives that then the school committee works to try to assist the administration in implementing. It's a little bit vice versa, I think, on the Board of Selectmen, where this board really looks to initiate policy, and then the administrator is tasked with the job of carrying out that policy. So, you know, if I had my druthers in terms of an evaluation process, I would look to simplify the proposed draft that you had. I think it's more involved than it needs to be. The time frame, I think, works in the sense that you're talking about meeting in June, and then, where was the time frame? I thought there was another meeting in March. Yeah, so June, you know, would set the tasks and objectives. March would then evaluate, and then that'd give you a couple of months to come up with a final evaluation, which would be a composite of the three members of the Board of Selectmen, presumably done by the chairman, which that's the way it was done when I was on the school committee. This says the Board of Selectmen will create a composite. I would assume it falls in the lap of the chair to
Compile all the input.
assemble the three, you know, I mean,
I would expect, but.
I remember what I did as chair is basically I took the 7 evaluations and then summarized them, you know. 4 members thought this, 3 members thought that, and, you know, that type of thing. So, I mean, in terms of that process, I mean, I think that works well. But given the fact that we are talking about an administrator and not a policymaker, I think the actual document is a bit longer than it needs to be.
Other than length, is there anything specifically that you'd like to exclude from this draft that Rick submitted?
I didn't do that. I didn't know, you know, where you want to go on this. I mean, if you know, we wanted to do that, then I could do that for a next meeting. I just sort of looked at it in the totality.
Because, you know, one of the, just as an example, some of the things that I think are appropriate that we evaluate, and that frankly any community would evaluate for a town administrator, and let me just read excerpts from this. Leadership, concerns, ability to crisis manage, conflict resolution, morale and teamwork of employees, getting results, setting an example for others to follow, encouraging employees to develop their full potential. So I think those are leadership examples. Organizational knowledge, that is knowledge of the town charter, bylaws, regulations, policies, procedures.
Well, we'd have to change that. We don't have a town charter.
No, but understood. I think what we're talking about is just general bylaws and how the boards operate and who to see for what. I think some of what Rick's role in the Board of Selectmen's office is to help people effectively navigate through town hall.
Sure.
To get it, so policy administration. So this board would specifically set policy and how that's administered, the execution and implementation of policies adopted by the Board of Selectmen. So there's a section I wouldn't want to cut out of that. That's a paragraph. I think each of those that I've mentioned are paragraphs. Financial management. Much of what the town administrator would have to do is coordinate with finance director to make sure that you know, the appropriate legal review, the appropriate financial review has happened. So using those resources, I think, you know, I don't know that it's specifically financial management, but it's not a bad header because it involves an awful lot of things to make sure we're doing the right thing. As procurement officer, as an example, making sure we're doing the right things, following state laws. So I'm not sure if I want to cut that. Communication skills, as an example, I think are key in any role, in any job, the ability for somebody to communicate, so I wouldn't want to cut that. Work organization and accomplishments, how well organized is someone? Accomplishments, I think that's an opportunity for Board of Selectmen and the individual to, kind of like a brag sheet, talk about the accomplishments of the past year. So, what, I'll tell you what, I think what's making this long is not, for example, that paragraph. Or, there may be some things you want to cut out, because I think it's the form itself that's driving the length of this document. Because when it comes to the final output, if you go to, it's not numbered, the back of this section, which would be page 13, is the actual performance evaluation. Rick can tell me if I've got this wrong, or that's not what you had in mind.
Well, that's a second sheet, doesn't it? Isn't that the second tool? Didn't you give us a couple to look at?
Are you offering two tools as
Basically,
evidence?
there were two.
No,
The
no.
one you were just referring to
Yeah.
is the one I particularly
I like that one, too.
That ends at page 12.
Correct. I
And
mean,
then the next one is a
I thought
different
this is
tool.
abbreviated, so if you have preference
Yeah.
for the abbreviated version, or maybe it's formatting, let me know. Because that may be easier. Maybe it's a hybrid.
The one you were reading from is the one I like. I think those categories are, as you said, those are the common categories I found throughout almost any town that I looked at.
Well, Brian raises an interesting point, and the more I look at number one tool, the first tool in your preference, it's my preference as well, but they don't format it in a way that makes it concise. It repeats, as an example, the criteria for outstanding, exceeds expectation, meets expectation, and that appears redundant. You can always have a
We
reference sheet
could
for that.
streamline that. We could have one sheet to reference.
Yeah, and I think we can make this a couple of pages long, say 3 to 4 pages long, very easily, simply by adopting the checkbox system that they have in the second one.
Yep.
But it's keeping the same criteria.
Right, yeah, sure. Yep.
So in other words, one would still be number 1, 2, 3, 4. And why don't we wait for some feedback? And then we'll look to implement in July.
Yeah, we'd be a little bit behind, but I think
Yeah.
we could do that and still
I think we could
stay on
compress.
schedule for this coming year.
Brian, does that meet with yours? So
Yeah, that's fine. I
okay.
have no problem.
I just want to start it.
Tune it up a little bit. Can I just ask a question that so on the evaluation sheets, page 11, that's different than page 12,
Might be
which
able,
looks on the elements.
Yeah.
So the
Actually,
elements,
they're
that's
probably
1 to
backwards.
10.
Yeah.
No, so page 11 is, where would that?
If you keep going now further, you see where it says performance ratings, and then there are 20 questions. Tasks and objectives. I think the sheet's in there twice, that's all.
Oh, that's part of the other tool.
Yeah, that should have been, yeah. it's
Oh,
a
I
little-
see, so that's.
Yeah, they're
that-
just
that-
two scoring elements, because
So
one
that-
was section 1, one was section 2. Yeah.
Okay, so it's both then? I thought it was two separate tools, but you're saying
It's
it's.
two separate tools, I
these are
only did it that way only to
11
see
and
if the
12.
board was
So
looking for.
this rating sheet, 1 to 20, goes with the second.
Correct. I personally like
Okay.
the first one, because I think
Okay.
it both can use a grading system, but it also provides the opportunity for the board to give commentary in a more, in a paragraph.
So if we were to use the first one, you're not gonna be using page 11?
That's correct.
Okay, all righty, that's, okay.
That's
Well,
correct.
That makes it,
Yeah, that's, I think that could
All right,
streamline
then
it.
that, I missed that.
Personally prefer that, but I'm gonna leave it up to the board.
Yeah, we may have the opportunity to
We could-
combine some of these
I was
headers.
just gonna say, we could take some of the.
I think we can.
Okay.
Brian, you all set?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. And Rick, thank you, first of all, because this was something that was important to me, for the department heads, and it's yours as well. But what I wanted you to do, which you did, I just want to make sure that if you have a preference, I want to know that preference.
Okay.
Because I want you to be comfortable with the tool. I'll do anything. If you want me to
Fair
write
enough.
narrative, just so you know exactly where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
that's fine. If you want me to use a check as long as there's something at the bottom before I sign it that I can,
Okay.
if there's if there's a commentary, that's what I prefer, but I'm gonna pretty much support whatever tool you
Okay.
present to us.
Appreciate it. Okay.
So I just want you to be comfortable with it, because I think this is what's important to back you up and to give you support and everything else, just like I think that you're gonna do for the department heads
Okay.
by having this. So that's how I look at it, and that's how I deal with my 100 employees at work. And that's how I'm dealt with, something actually very similar.
Okay.
And that's something that, something comes down the line, something's in question, it's in writing.
Okay, I would like,
So-
perhaps I can streamline it then.
Okay.
And then obviously feedback from the board, and I'm sure we can come to something that I know I'll be able to live with, and that you will be too.
The other suggestion I had came to mind is where you have policies, procedure for annual evaluation of the town administrator. I would look to modify that to be town administrator and department heads.
Okay, sure.
Because I don't think it requires a lot of editing to get that done, to
Probably not.
combine the two.
Okay.
And when is your intention to have department heads' goals and objectives established?
Again, over the next couple of months, I'd like to start that and get that working also in July and August. Meet with each of them. That's gonna take a little longer, because there's a number of them, but I don't see why.
You almost have to schedule probably a couple of weeks or something,
Well,
right?
That's probably what I'll do, is
Yeah.
something like that, is just schedule a couple of week, couple of day, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't wanna rush it, I just wanna have,
I
a-
wanna get it going, though.
I wanna have
do
a
it,
clear
let's do it.
objective, though.
Right, yeah.
So, in your sense, it'll be completed by,
We can coincide it by the end of July, then let's start.
All right.
If we're gonna use July as the month for the town administrator, let's do that for the
Perfect.
department
and-
heads, and we can coincide that way.
in the meantime, we'll be setting up a meeting with Rick specifically to go over the administrator's goals and objectives. And Rick, if you could, send us out what your take is on a draft of that document. I know that's the way we do it. At work, we establish what we think our goals are. Our administration works with us to say, yeah, these are on track, these are aligned to the higher level objectives, or let's modify them as we see fit
Right.
at the time.
We'll get something out.
So if you get that out in the next week or two, then what we can do is start in July with that meeting, set the objectives. And I would use those, my suggestion is, put goals and objectives in each of the categories. And think about a couple for each. I say a couple because I'm trying to make sure there aren't 72.
Right.
Yeah,
So just
I think
a
we
couple
need
in each of the headings.
We need to make it manageable.
Absolutely.
And if we want to add a third or to take away one, we'll talk about that and work through it.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, outstanding. So I look forward to that. And I think this has been a long time coming. It's not been something that we've done here, and I wasn't even aware of what happened in 2002
2002, 2003.
when that was first proposed. Okay. Thank you, that helps a great deal. So the next item on the agenda, old business, is MWRTA Memorandum of Understanding. Jerry drafted a document, you've appropriately changed the fact
I
sheet.
changed the fact sheet, some of
Yeah.
them just weren't relevant
Exactly.
over the passage of time.
No,
and-
this
and
is
some of them were
evolved.
estimates and changes, so I shortened that a great deal.
I think the item number 3 changes as a result of the town meeting and the vote. I think that number for item number 3 should be $125,000 when we look at the $75,000 Chenal grant and the $50,000 town appropriation.
I think
I
we're
think
just-
it's
we're-
got to change on number 3, although does it? I mean, let's
I mean,
talk.
that's what we'd be paying them.
Let's talk about that for
Sure.
a second, because
Yeah.
on number 3, it talks about the 249,000. I think something needs to change on it, because it does say it's going to be paid. However, the allocation of the state reimbursement is going to take up at least half of that.
Exactly.
So we're not going to be paying at least half. That's the number they said, right?
Yeah, 125,000.
Yes,
Right. The state contract assistance.
Which is
So-
really the MWRTA's budget.
Right. That's money that they get from the state to
Exactly.
offset the expenses, which Representative Fernandez fought for us to make sure that Milford was on the same footing as the other towns in the MWRTA. So, the question is, do we leave the initial number in there as the 249, indicating we're only gonna pay what the state contract assistance doesn't pay? Or do you change that number to the 125?
I think it should be 125 personally.
Okay.
How do you feel about that, Will?
No, that's fine.
That's actually what we're paying.
Yep.
Okay.
And of that 125, 75 would be part of the Chenal, but that's not part of the memorandum of understanding.
Right, we're the pass-through for that.
Right, where we get the money is up to us.
Right.
Right.
But between us and MWRTA, I think that number should probably read approximately 125,000.
Yeah, and I think, to your point, Brian, and I'd like to clarify this as well, that we add in the line item as it relates to Ed's memo to us, indicating as part of the MOU that the MWRTA be using its community assistance dollars to contribute $125,000 to the total of 150. Maybe we just show all the math. Maybe that's the easiest way.
Well, okay, so then you would keep the 249 and then indicate of which
The town's
approximately
responsibility.
125,000 would be covered under the state contract assistance.
Great.
And
Why don't we
the
do it
town-
that way?
Something along those lines.
Yeah, and of that, the town of Milford is responsible for $125,000.
I think you gotta approximate it. Jerry's got it down to the penny. I think we might wanna
Yeah.
ballpark the numbers.
Approximately 250 is close enough out of $249,313.60.
I think he took that, he took that off the budget, I think.
And the only other comment I had, and thank you for cleaning up that fact sheet, Rick. No, this is good. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm not gonna dabble with it. It clears up, as soon as we clear up that math and what the town's responsible for and what MWRTA is responsible for, I think we're all good.
Okay, we get
And
another
with that
draft.
change, let me ask this.
Should we just vote on it with that
Yeah,
change?
yeah,
and
can we make that
you can
change?
be left
And
for
are
us
you
so
guys
we can
comfortable
sign
with
it?
just that
We don't have
change?
to do it.
Yeah, other than that,
Let's get a
it's,
motion. I'd like to get this in front of the MWRTA, who has to also show it to their lawyers.
yeah, I'll move to approve the memorandum of agreement with the change at number 3 that we've discussed.
Okay?
Seconded.
And you've got enough detail, Rick, to
Yeah,
to
I'll
clean up
sit
that
with Jerry,
paragraph?
we'll clean that up, yeah,
Outstanding.
I think so, yeah.
I'll also vote in the affirmative. That's unanimous. So we'll bring that to Ed. Let me know when that's ready, and if for
Yes.
some reason I'm not in town, we'll talk about it and we can forward it to them so that we can get the review process going.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you, Rick.
thank you.
Okay, is there any other old business the members would like to bring up this evening?
I don't have anything.
Will?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Under new business, town administrator, fee for farmers market, farmers brewing permit?
Yeah, if the board recalls, we've kind of issued our first one. We don't have a fee structure for it. I did check with the ABCC and spoke with Ralph Sacramone, I believe it was, and he said the town can't set that fee. Typically, it's based on the wine and malt retail package store or some variable of that. So what I did was recommend 1/2 of that, which would be $500. The typical fee for the wine and malt is $1,000, given that it's not quite that. Again, the board can set it, but we do not have a fee
Okay.
built into our fee structure.
You know,
Again, I'm not married to that, but I'm.
no, you threw out a proposal, and
That-
the only thing I'd ask the board is to consider how low we can set that number. I would look to set it as low as reasonably possible. I know that the board members don't necessarily have a structure that lets us know everything involved and the costs associated with it. It should cover itself. I don't think there's a lot of heavy lifting from that brewery permit requirement. So, you know, what I think is the board can review this annually and increase it if they find out it's necessary. I don't, I'd like to set it as low as reasonably possible and see if there's something below the 500 we might be able to reach common ground on. And I don't have a stake in the game because I'm not setting up a brewery. I know a lot of communities that look to attract breweries as boutique businesses, you know, filling space. They don't take a lot of space. So in any event, I'd ask the board to consider that when they consider the number. Your thoughts, Brian?
Well, I mean, the only thing is you're looking to fit another piece into an overall puzzle, so, you know, you want the fee to be rationally related to the other fees. If not, you're gonna have other license holders coming in and say, hey, you know, I don't have a lot of impact, and my fee is so much higher than, you know, this farmer's brewery fee, so it should be lowered. So, I mean, if you wanna present us the fee schedule, and take a look at it at another meeting, I would be
could
willing
do
to do that.
Yeah, and we should discuss exactly what a farmer's brewery is, so that, let's do that. Yeah, is anything time sensitive on this? Do you have an application?
Yeah, we already
Yeah.
do. I don't envision one coming.
Yeah, I don't imagine we're gonna get rushed with them, but I also don't wanna set up obstacles.
I'll get the fee.
Well,
Okay, let's look at the fee
It'll
structure.
hit again in November, right?
Right.
It'll hit in November anyway.
All right,
And they're already, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
And they're already, by the way, I didn't have a problem with what you presented. I thought it was fair. But they also have been, because Attorney Pettinari explained it when the ladies came in, that they've already been licensed with the ABCC for a number of years, because
That
this
is
isn't
correct.
something you can start overnight. I wonder how much they've already paid or what their licenses cost as well. Because I think all of our other businesses come directly through us. So I think that might be relative as well, because I'm not sure how much they pay. I've certainly never dealt with the ABCC, but I imagine they didn't get their state licenses free of charge. So maybe that's something that should come into the equation.
Sure.
okay.
Check on that.
Okay. So we'll hold off on the final information until we get a fee structure and understanding of, maybe an understanding of the work that's involved in permitting that versus a retail liquor store,
Okay.
as an example, or bar. Next one, we have Milford Whitensville Regional Hospital requesting a discontinuation of orange slip. Members have any questions or thoughts related to that?
Well, Mr. Chairman, my first thought when we got this was I thought we had already done this.
Yeah, we did the cul-de-sac,
But
right?
yeah, but it said that we did the cul-de-sac, so now they're looking, right, so now they're looking for the way, so, obviously I'd be in favor of that.
Okay, so you're in favor of remanding to the planning board for review and comment?
Yes.
All right, Will?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we'll take that as a motion in a second. I'll make that unanimous, that we remand their request to discontinue orange slip to the planning board for review and comment. Thank you. Dog hearing officer recommendations.
All right. Let's see what we have here.
Members here have read it, so you can give a high-level outline.
Okay, yeah, we have
Should help you
a
not to
record
revisit.
3 at one time. So, let's see, the first one that I would read would be Kathy Avery versus Jennifer Convery. And I'll just read the findings of fact and the recommendation. Number 1, Jay Wadsworth and Jennifer Convery reside at 34 Green Street, Milford, and were in possession and control of a neutered male pit bull lab mixed dog named Rambo, age approximately 5 to 6 years. On March 29th, 2016, Kathy Avery was walking her dog Layla on Green Street. While doing so, Rambo jumped over the fence at 34 Green Street, using the doghouse to jump off of, and without provocation attacked Layla in the hind end, causing injury. Ms. Avery also suffered injury to her right hand, attempting to stop the attack. At some time in April 2016, Mr. Wadsworth and Ms. Convery moved Rambo from their property to New Hampshire on a permanent basis. Pursuant to GL Chapter 140, Section 157, I find that Rambo is a dangerous dog. The recommendation is as follows. Rambo shall not be allowed to be in the possession or control of Jennifer Convery or Jay Wadsworth, nor shall the dog be allowed at the premises located at 34 Green Street, Milford, at any time, regardless of who possesses, owns, or controls the dog. Should Rambo be upon said premises for any reason and at any time, the dog shall be subject to seizure and impoundment by the Milford Animal Control Department and/or the Milford Police Department, with a further hearing to be held to determine the eventual disposition of Rambo, and the findings shall be reported to the Milford Town Clerk in accordance with GL Chapter 140, Section 157H.
Will, can we have a motion to accept the,
I will make a motion to accept the recommendations of the hearings officer.
I would second that. All in favor? Can I guess that's unanimous?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
unanimous.
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
The next one that we have is Ramona and Michael Tempesta versus Manuel Dos Santos. Again, the findings of fact are as follows. Manuel Dos Santos resides at 3 Roland Way, Milford, and is the owner of a Portuguese male dog approximately 2 years named Joel. Maria Dos Santos resides at 3 Roland Way, Milford, and is the owner of a Beagle mixed spayed female dog, age approximately 7 years, named Bonicia. On diverse and several occasions, Joel and Benicia have barked excessively and at such times that it is an annoyance and disturbance to the neighborhood. Pursuant to GL Chapter 140, Section 157, I find that Joel and Benicia are nuisance dogs. The recommendation being as follows. Joel and Benicia shall not be allowed outside from the hours of 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. Should Joel or Benicia need to be outside during the aforementioned time period, then they shall be accompanied by a member of the Dos Santos family and on a leash. Should the dogs bark during this time, they shall be immediately brought inside. If either Joel or Benicia bark excessively for an unreasonable length of time while outside during the daytime hours allowed, then they shall be immediately brought inside. The area where Joel and Benicia will be while outside shall be contained by adequate and secure fencing to the satisfaction of the Animal Control Department. If the Dos Santos are found in violation of this order, Joel and Benicia shall be subject to seizure and impoundment by the Milford Police Department and/or Animal Control Department, and further, the Dos Santos would be ordered to immediately surrender to the Milford Town Clerk the licenses and tags in their possession and prohibited from licensing a dog within the Commonwealth for 5 years. This finding shall be reported to the Milford Town Clerk in accordance with GL Chapter 140, Section 157H.
I make a motion to accept the recommendations of the hearing officer.
I would second that. All in favor? That's unanimous.
And the last one is Alice Mello Lopes versus Antonio and Christine Ferreira. The findings are as follows. Based upon the credible evidence presented, given that an order of the Board of Selectmen is in place relative to Cody, the dog owned by the Ferreiras, the question presented is whether sufficient evidence has been presented to warrant a finding that the order has been violated. The standard of proof is by a preponderance of the evidence, or more likely than not, and the burden rests upon the complainant, Ms. Mello Lopes, to meet that burden. Considering the totality of the evidence presented, it is this hearing officer's finding that the burden of proof was not met. If there was any violation of the order, it was de minimis at best and not of sufficient magnitude to warrant a violation finding. Therefore, no further recommendation is necessary.
I make a motion to accept the findings, or what do you call this?
This is a, not guilty.
I'm not guilty.
I don't know what we call it.
I'm not at a loss of words very much, but I'm not sure.
I'll second to support the recommendations of the hearing officer.
And, Mr. Chairman,
And that's unanimous.
I
First, second.
I think it might be time for me to hand over the dog officer leash to someone else. I've been doing it for 15 years, and this was burdensome to be 3 at one time. And now there's another one that we do have to schedule a hearing on. So, I'll be willing to assist somebody on this most recent one, but I think it's time to maybe appoint, someone else to,
Can we continue it for this one, and then we'll look to transfer it after that? Kind of clean the slate with what we have
Okay, we'll
Does that work
do,
for you?
we'll do one last one.
last one.
One last one. Okay,
All right.
Gene, I'll talk to you, we'll get a date on this one. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Or to the hearings officer. Does that have to be a member of the Board of Selectmen, or could we find someone to do that,
No, it
who
could-
obviously has a legal background?
Yeah, it could be anyone.
Yeah.
You know, it could be anyone. I mean, I'm looking at someone right now that would be a suitable candidate,
Gene?
not Gene.
I thought it was Gene.
But I mean, you know,
Want to take this on too, with everything else?
I mean, in fact, some towns, you know, the town administrator does do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
you know, and could make a recommendation, you know, then to the full board.
All right, that was something to keep in mind. 15 years is certainly a long time.
Certainly is, and I was outside for these last ones, and I imagine with people's dogs, and they get quite emotional, so.
Yeah.
It is, it's tough, and the process is good in that you're in a contained room, and everybody is right, and their opinions are valid. And then what you try to do, hopefully, structure something that everybody can live with when they leave the room.
Okay. Well, I've always found your documentation well-reasoned, clear, and I've always supported your decisions. I know there's a concern that somebody could be too pro-dog or too anti-dog to do it, and I always find that yours have been fair and rationalized.
Thank you.
Okay, so we went through that. Hospitality program, permit to obstruct. We have a request from the Milford High School Hospitality Tourism Program and Stacy Middle School. And the contact person is Katie Maloney. And it's a 5K race where the proceeds would be used to support Stacy Middle School and the Milford High School Hospitality Program. The police chief has looked at the route and approved the route. I know we always ask that question. People want to make sure the police chief is involved in the structuring of these. Is there any motion?
I'll move.
Seconded.
I'll vote unanimous. Marcagiano Club has a one-day license request, and before the board takes it up, I'm not sure I understand it, Rick. So they already have a liquor license. It doesn't mention anything about inside, outside. So I'm not sure what we would be issuing. They already have an all-alcoholic license, and the one day, I'm not sure. I don't know, did any of the other members?
I thought that it was,
Question?
I thought that it looks like they wanted to do outdoor wine,
It's
but,
outside.
That would be,
Yeah.
that would be
It's for
a
the
guess.
fireworks, it's the night of the fireworks.
yeah.
The night of the fireworks.
Then they've typically done this in the past, and so it's for outside the premises, and for viewing of the fireworks.
Okay, so
Rain date coincides with the fireworks.
typically when we have outdoor sales, I just want to check with the board. I don't have any great opposition, any concerns, other than the police chief usually makes sure that there are unique stipulations established for parking lot serving of and consumption of alcohol. Usually they want to make sure that people have been carded, tagged, wristbanded, or something. Usually the chief is reviewing these.
Okay.
I don't remember reviewing one in the last couple of years, Brian, where the chief hasn't got involved. I remember it was Scioli's Pizza that also had an outdoor one, and there were certain restrictions as to where people could be. There was a fence,
Yeah.
and they couldn't meander into the other properties or other grounds.
I think that we've approved the Marchigiano
We
Club
just
every
did one for the
year.
Italian vets, I
Yeah,
think.
I mean, 'cause
last
Outdoor
those-
sales.
those-
Did we?
They do the same, and I think they're taking
The outdoor.
up, they're taking
Okay,
up,
let's
It's a-
do that,
it's
and
a-
let's,
it's a
let's in
one-day-
let's in the future.
yeah. And Gene made a good point, it's not selling it outside, but they're gonna sell it inside, but then they're gonna go outside with it, and then they're gonna watch the fireworks.
Yeah,
Oh, in which case I wouldn't have any
It's
concerns.
typically.
I know there's
that's-
some outdoor service at times too. We have some of those establishments in town.
Oh, yeah, no, I know we do have
Okay,
that.
all right.
but
No,
this-
that-
This would not be that.
You know, what maybe we could do is just put a line on 'em, a line on this to clarify the application
Sure.
itself.
Yep.
Yeah, because otherwise you wouldn't need a rain date. right? And you wouldn't need an application, they already have an application.
Right.
It's for outside consumption of alcohol.
And specifically
Which
for the
isn't
nights of
here.
fireworks, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, all those in favor?
I would move to approve.
Seconded.
Unanimous. Okay, next we have the Milford Fire Department permit to obstruct. This is muscular dystrophy toll road.
I'll move.
Second.
That's also been reviewed by the police chief, and that's unanimous. Any new business that the members would like to bring up at this time?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Actually, I do, and it was something that, while Tom Capsello and his sister were here, prior to the meeting, he brought up a couple of questions about Archer Rubber.
Okay.
And he asked that, if we were aware that they closed, and I said yes. But he did bring up a good point, and I was wondering if we could just get some information on, if we can, on how many Milford jobs were lost, and if there's any plans or what the condition is of that property. And I thought that was a very valid point and good question, one I think that we've spoken about, but if we could find something out a little bit more formal, I'd appreciate that.
Get that, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's a great question. I know at various times, the DEP and others have had particular interest in that site and what exists there, so that's a great point. Okay. Correspondence. We have a letter of resignation that the board's required to vote on for Courtney Dadarian for the Industrial Development Commission.
I'll move to accept with regret.
I'll second that.
Vote unanimously. James Legore, who was successful in his campaign to run for school committee, has a letter of resignation from the Personnel Board.
I'll move to accept with regret.
And I'll second that as well.
Good to have him on the school committee, and the downside is obviously that he resigns. And we'll be looking for those appointments.
Next
end of the
meeting,
month?
no, next week,
Next
next week, yeah.
That's a long meeting, folks. Okay, that concludes the business of the open session of the Board of Selectmen meeting. It's our intention to go into executive session for contract negotiations with town council. First of all, do I have a motion to adjourn the existing session?
I'll move.
Second it?
All right, that's unanimous. Next, take a vote on going into executive session for the purposes stated.
Aye.
Aye.
I also vote in favor. Will be not be returning to open session.